Hey guys, wanted to make a quick video before I put Artemis in the bathtub. I wanted to talk about sex. I wanted to talk about, and briefly, I don't want this to be like a huge long video, but I think it's important to talk about this subject because now that I'm pregnant, and it's been like, my sex drive has been like, ever since surgery. Prior to surgery, it was like boop, 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 all the way up, all the time. Artemis, Ron and I are going to be together now 7 years in November. And I want to say the first year, I pounced on him like all the time, every day. Every time he came to visit me, which was every day. And then slowly he kind of started moving his way into my space. And then after we moved in together and the honeymoon stage was kind of wearing off, I want to say the second year, when shit got real, responsibilities and stuff like that. And he was working crazy hours at work, doing events, sometimes driving all the way to San Diego or like other places. And he would come home and I'm like ready to pounce. And he's like, I'm tired. And I would take offense to it. I would feel rejected, and that was around the time I was reaching my highest weight as well. So looking back on it, I was overreacting instead of talking to him about my feelings, and vice versa. He wasn't talking to me about me coming on too aggressively. Ron is not the type to talk about sex open and honestly. I kind of have to draw it out of him. I'm the kind of person who's like, so what do you like in bed? And so we were still working on our communication, and I felt rejected, and I felt like I was super overweight, and like I was kind of projecting onto him. And so it was a rough time for us with communicating and moving in together and having all these new responsibilities as a couple and all kinds of things that happened during the first 2 years that we were together. But slowly but surely, I wore him down on the communication aspect, and I started like getting him out of his shell and letting me know like what I did sometimes came off too aggressively, or something that I did was a turn off. He doesn't like this, he likes that more, stuff like that. So when I decided to get the surgery, I had this really huge fear of him treating me different, treating me better, I guess, or loving me more as a skinnier version of myself. But that never happened. If you guys watch my videos and follow them, it never happened. Our sex life was pretty good for people that were super busy. And then I got pregnant with Artemis, and I got pregnant with Artemis, and on top of that, my husband started gaining weight, and I could tell that, and he was starting to have trouble at work with different changes in departments and people treating him differently, and him not having the same level of respect he used to have, and that affected his self-esteem. And in conjunction with gaining weight, I could tell that his self-esteem was taking a huge nosedive. And so couple that with me being pregnant and my sex drive just nowhere in sight. It would take more of an effort to get me to even think about sex, and but I knew that I wanted to make sure that was on top of my list of important things, because sex is very important in a relationship. It just is. And I was no less attracted to my husband at all. I was still equally as attracted as ever, but there was a disconnect with this, and that is just not communicating. And I noticed that my husband would like try, but then if I kind of was like, no, he would get super hurt about it, and he would just shut down. And I mean, after a couple weeks of not having sex, I asked him, like, because I could tell like in his moods and stuff. And he's like, well, I feel rejected, you know, and it sucks, and I just rather not even go there and just ignore it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, it's not something that we should ignore, though. It's something that we should talk about. And there's plenty of other things we can do besides full-on intercourse, because it was uncomfortable for me as well, being pregnant. And as the morning sickness happened and all the aches and everything like that, it was just not happening for me. But there was times where I was in the mood, but it was so unpredictable. So now that we're during my second pregnancy, it is even more of an emphasis for me to keep that line of communication open. I try my best to make sure that I'm not just ignoring his needs. Like, that's the key. You might not feel like it, or you might feel dead tired or very, very like uncomfortable, but there's other things you guys can do besides have sex. You guys can just cuddle, you guys can hold hands, go on a walk together, make out. There's areas that can be touched still. You guys can watch porn together, you can offer a hand job, blow job, whatever type of job, dress up for him and be a visual for him, whatever. I mean, that's the thing about being in a relationship, and you're gonna have ups and downs, and people sometimes focus on the downs so much instead of trying to get them back up. So it's a tough thing to discuss. Some people are not very open with it, but I know, and for myself, I want to be extremely open about that subject, because I know that some of the reasons that people get divorced is financial and lack of sex. And right now, with our financial situation, you know, not being the most stable, and the sex stuff also happening, it's like, oh my goodness, we are being tested. But I'm confident that we're gonna be okay. I still kind of have to pull my husband out of a rut here and there sometimes, and let him know that it's not a burden for me. That's the thing that he feels like he doesn't want to come off as like a sex fiend, or like he's nagging me for something. It's not that, ever. I will never feel like you're pressuring me. I will never feel like you're out of line, ever. Like, I love you, I'm still attracted to you, trust me, I want to touch you, I want to kiss you, I want to do all those things, but I cannot have like full-on intercourse right now because it's so uncomfortable for me sometimes. But I don't mind doing all the other stuff that we can do together, you know? And that's the key. Talking about it, not being ashamed about it, and really just, how do I say this? I guess the level of comfort and security that you feel within each other to make it easier to talk about these tough subjects. And it didn't happen overnight. Sometimes I feel like I still have to reiterate that to my husband and be like, it's okay, dude, I'm not looking at you like you're attacking me. Like, of course not. Let's talk about this. Let's figure it out. But yeah, as this pregnancy is winding down, I'm just tired and I'm achy, and some of the morning sickness has come back. And that's so sexy, you know, seeing me throw up is so sexy. But I just want to make a video about this subject. There are some women who get pregnant and their sex drive goes all the way up, and then there's some that are in between, and then there's some that are just like, don't even look at me. So it's normal, it's natural, it'll pass just like everything else. And that's all I really had to say on the subject. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody. Hopefully I am not TMIing too much. Yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.